They turn inland and revisit the scene of an atrocity inflicted on prisoners of war, an event that led to one of the first World War II crime convictions in Europe.
Guys, I don't see a sign, but this has to be the Ardenne Abbey.
I've heard some pretty chilling stories about this place.
We're going to go meet Jacques Vico. He was a French resistance fighter during the war. He's familiar with the dark history surrounding this place.
Jim, this was an abbey before the war?
It's a very old abbey, and with the French Revolution, it was closed, became a farm.
Why would the SS have taken it over? Why did they make this their headquarters?
Well, it's close to Caen. Also, it's an elevated piece of ground, so from that church tower, the SS could see for miles. They could see down to Juno Beach, and they certainly saw the Canadians coming.
My mother was released from prison at the end of March 1944. 2 months after the liberation of Ardenne. This was the site of a battle. There was no roof left, no frame. The house had collapsed. All that was left were ruins. My mother had been there 8 days when a Canadian sergeant arrived, a tall, burly fellow. He told my mother he came back to Ardenne because some of his comrades had been killed at the Ardenne Abbey. Before the war, little white flowers would grow around the edges of the lawn. In March 1945, instead of growing around the edges, these little white flowers were growing everywhere on the lawn. My mother and my younger brother Michel said they, the Germans, disturbed the lawn and in the process separated the flower bulbs. They were trying to hide something. My younger brother Michel started digging a hole and immediately stumbled onto the corpse of a Canadian soldier. So now we know for certain that 20 Canadian soldiers were assassinated and buried in these grounds. The corpses were buried beneath the lawn on either side of the flower bed you see there. There was no flower bed at the time. There were some buried here and some between the chestnut tree and the rock at back. There were some on the other side of the chestnut tree, including one I found myself. The discovery of this killing field prompted one of the first war crimes convictions in Europe.
Why, in your estimation, why would these Canadians volunteer to fight a war that's not in their country?
When you talk to them, when you talk to the veterans, I remember a conversation with one of them whose comrades belonged to the Queen's Own Rifles of Canada in Toronto. He found the bodies of his comrades. He had come back for the 40th anniversary, and I asked him, "So, how do you feel 40 years later?" He answered, "You know, we volunteered. We were only 20. We had fire in our hearts and we were fighting for freedom. It gave us courage."